Hey baby, I'm back. Ready to talk about the Space Marines a little bit more. You seemed so interested last time, so I think we should talk about the World Eaters this time. They were a very tragic legion. They were meant to be the empathetic warriors of the Space Marines. Yeah, they prided themselves on martial prowess and straight up better fighting style, fighting ability. What made them so tragic is that they went from, in a way, doing what they were designed to do to becoming berserkers. All because of their Primarch, the Gene Father, who was traumatized by his own upbringing. And in a way to try to bond with him to become more in tune with his expectations of them, they became traumatized in a similar way voluntarily, trying to please him. So they were doing their thing, being noble, honorable warriors. Then they were reunited with their Primarch, Angron. And by the time Angron reunited with them, he had already been given the Butcher's Nails. The Butcher's Nails were these little whip-like, dread-like looking machines that were put in his skull by his slave masters. And what they did was they caused intense pain in anybody that doesn't feel rage or anger. It trains you to feel only anger and rage and nothing else. And when you did, you were supposed to feel at least some euphoria or pleasure. But Angron wasn't human. He was a Primarch. So in order to make them fit, they cut out pieces of his brain. So with the Butcher's Nails, he didn't feel anything emotionally besides anger and rage. And he felt anger and rage in order to make the pain stop. So these noble warriors came in contact with their Gene Father, who was supposed to be an empathetic, honorable man slash warrior, but had turned into a traumatized monster. And in order to try to bond with them, they put the Butcher's Nails within their own heads. And this was a big hoopla. Half the Legion wanted to do it, half didn't. But the ones that did do it became so bloodthirsty, they were able to easily kill the ones that resisted getting the Butcher's Nails. So, little mini skirmish within the Legion. But Angron, he was sent to a slave world, well, a world that had gladiators, and he became one. And he led a gladiator slash slave revolt that ended with him and his brothers and sisters backed up into a corner, and they were prepared to die in a final battle. The Emperor finally found Angron, and right before the final battle, he took him away. He took him away from his people. And that resentment, that tragedy of being denied a death amongst your kinsmen, caused a deep resentment within Angron, on top of his already very traumatic physical situation. And as you'd imagine, that does not make you a very empathetic father slash war leader when put in such a situation. So he didn't really care much for his sons. In fact, when the leadership at the time tried to talk to Angron to try to convince him to lead them into war, Angron killed them. He killed the leadership of the Warhounds, which they were called. They were called the Warhounds before they became the World Eaters. He killed them, and except Karn, one warhound that was able to finally convince him to take up arms in the name of the Emperor, at least for the time being. And what Angron would do, he's like, okay, we got to go make these planets compliant in terms of ready to be taken over for the Imperium. You guys have one Nuceran day, which is the name of the planet he was sent to as a baby. He had 1 day or 31 hours to take over the planet. If the Warhounds failed to take over the planet, they had to do decimation. And decimation was when 1 out of 10 of them were picked out and beaten to death or killed by the other 9. And not necessarily beaten to death. They could just easily just been shot or executed, but it was brutal. 1/10 of the Legion died every time they failed to take over a planet in an impossible amount of time. But they went along with it because that was their gene father, that was their leader, until they got sick of it. They came across the planet they just couldn't take over, and they failed to take over the planet, and the planet's inhabitants didn't have any weapons. They were just clones that were so great in number that they just crushed them under the bulk of their weight. So Angron once again said, you guys are terrible. I'm going to just murder all of you. And went on a rampage, and during that rampage, he was knocked out by the librarians. Oh, the librarians are like space marines that are psychers. They can use psychic powers, like shoot fire and stuff like that. But they knocked him out, and while he was knocked out, half of the Legion got the butcher's nails in order to prevent a failure such as that never happened again. And the ones that resisted were murdered. So yeah, real tragic. And Angron eventually betrayed the Imperium and became a traitor during the Horus Heresy. And he didn't join the heresy because he liked chaos or wanted to serve the chaos gods. He just didn't like the Emperor. He was quoted in saying, I do not stand with Horus. I'm just against the Emperor. He is finally able to be free and hopefully have a death that was worthy of his cause. To be able to take on the tyrant and die while fighting for some sense of freedom. Did he get that death? No, he did not. He was turned into a demon prince or demon primarch by his traitor's brother Lorgar. But his heart was in the right place. That's what makes it so tragic. From the day he was born, or mere after, Angron was a slave. He was a slave to the High Riders of Nuceria. He was a slave to the Emperor. And now he's a slave to the Chaos Gods. The man never got the freedom he desired. He was just an angry monster who was meant for so much more. And his sons follow in his path in order to try to bond with him. Even after getting the nails, they didn't feel a connection towards him. Every Primarch has a, not symbiotic, but a aura around them that causes Space Marines to kneel to them, to respect them, even if they're not their direct sons. All Primarchs get the awe and recognition from all Space Marines, except Angron, because it was taken from him when he got the nails. Even after getting the nails, the sons, the World Eaters, that were called, after they were found by Angron, he changed their name because he refused to be a hound. They're not hounds that serve a master. They're the Eater of Worlds. They felt nothing towards him still. But yeah, baby, that's the tragedy of Angron and the World Eaters. I hope this taught you a little something. I hope it brightened your day for some reason, if you're weird like that. And I hope you enjoyed the recording. Like, share, and subscribe. Bye-bye.